listening to The Stall and Stable Show, ideas for happy horsekeeping.
Wendy Murdoch is back this week to talk about how equine behavior, environment, and biomechanics all work together to settle an anxious horse. How does gravity play a role in your horse's confidence? And what would you do if you were dragged to a bougie party and then dumped by your date? Listen into this super interesting discussion with one of the industry's most knowledgeable and experienced professionals in equine biomechanics and behavior. This is episode 149 of the Stall and Stable Show, brought to you by American Stalls. Today is Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. I'm your host, Helena Harris. Please support our sponsors as they help make this show possible, especially our title sponsor, American Stalls. Why have we partnered with American Stalls? 2 reasons. They believe that finding the right product for their customers first requires listening to their customers. You can't suggest a stall front style or a type of metal if you don't have any context for its use. Having a meaningful conversation with their customers about what they want, what they do, and what kind of horses they have is the first step in finding a good product fit. And reason number 2, American Stalls believes in education. Like me, they believe that an educated customer is a happy customer. Empowering you with information about what goes into barn design and stall construction means that you have the knowledge to make the right decisions for your project. And that means you end up with a barn that really works for your horses and for you. To see what American Stalls has to offer, visit them online at americanstalls.com or find them on Instagram and Facebook. Heidi-ho, good neighbors. That's dating myself. If you know where that's from, send me an email or put it up on our Facebook page. Maybe I'll send you a prize. We are back this week with a conversation with Wendy Murdoch, talking about one of my favorite things and something that I'm going to be talking about a lot more in the coming months, especially as I undertake my graduate studies at Penn Veterinary School. So Wendy and I are going to talk about biomechanics and behavior and what it might be like to be a horse going to a horse show. Sometimes we think we know what's happening with our horses, but it turns out that a lot of us don't know a whole lot about horse behavior. So Wendy and I are going to talk about a bougie dinner party, getting dumped by your date, and how your horse feels about it. Hi, Wendy. Welcome back to Stall and Stable.
Thanks. I'm so glad to be back.
We're going to talk about something today that I have absolutely no idea what it's about, and this is going to be fun. So I'm very much the student. You had mentioned once or twice, and it kind of went over my head, something called the dinner party. It has to do with horse behavior and kind of getting outside of our very human-centric way of thinking, anthropomorphizing. Is it good? Is it not good? When should we do it? How do we involve science and empathy and all that? And this is all kind of baked into Wendy's dinner party concept. Yep. Get me started.
Okay, great. So the first thing I just want to say is that we're all mammals. Horses are mammals, humans are mammals. As mammals, our skeleton is so similar. We have 7 cervical vertebrae. Horses have 7 cervical vertebrae. We have like 205 bones. They have like 206. There's a couple that we have, they don't have like a collarbone. But the reason I'm saying that is that, you've got a skeleton to support us in gravity. You've got muscles to move us around, and you've got a nervous system that runs the show. And in all mammals, the nervous system there's a lot of similarity. There's something called the autonomic nervous system, which is your sympathetic and parasympathetic, your fight and flight and rest and digest. And you've got your motor nervous system that moves the muscles. So that said, we're going to talk a little bit about the autonomic nervous system, the part that we both have because it's a primitive part of the brain. It's a very early part of the brain. So horses and humans both have a brainstem. They both have a cerebellum. Cerebellum is controlling movement. It's where you hold movement patterns. Their cerebellum is way bigger than ours. We have a motor cortex that causes us to move, that fires the nerves that fire the muscles. And then there's a frontal lobe, and we have a really big frontal lobe. So I always tell people, we can make up stories like Star Trek is a great example. I'm dating myself watching the original Star Trek. And, they had a communicator and it was a flip phone. And now we have a flip phone. So I don't think horses can dream up sci-fi. So that's like my example of our frontal lobe is different than theirs. We can imagine things and create things in a different way.
And think in the abstract.
Yeah. Think in the abstract. Problem solving is part of that frontal lobe. Horses can do some problem solving. It's really good that they learn to do problem solving. We do much more complicated problem solving. Sense of self. You look in the mirror and you go, oh, it's me, right? And they're saying now that some horses recognize self, but the majority don't. They look in the mirror and they don't see self. They see another horse and it's like, who are you? So those are the differences. But we're going to talk about the more primitive parts of the brain that we have that are similar. Okay. You ready?
Okay.
Okay, great. So here's my dinner party story. Your husband, significant other, or whoever comes to you and says, we have to go to a business meeting dinner party. You have never been to meet these people before. As soon as we get there, I have to go into a business meeting and I'm going to leave you at the door.
Oh my God. I just got sick.
There you go.
I just got sick. Okay. Yep.
Exactly. Your first reaction is what?
Social awkwardness, anxiety, fear.
Do you feel like running away?
Yes.
Like trying to get out of going to the dinner party?
Yeah.
Like it's in a week from now, right? And you're like, oh, I think I have something on my calendar that, I have to go do the laundry at the laundromat that night, wash the horse blankets. First thing we want to do is get out of it, avoid it. So that's the horse in the field. When you walk out there and you're like, you're going to go to a show. Now, some horses like going shows. So don't get me wrong. This isn't like a blanket thing, but it's that idea that, the horse sees you coming and all of a sudden he's like, I don't know what's going on. This is really strange. You pulled up the trailer or something. And so what do they want to do? They want to avoid it just like we do. They don't want to go to the party. But the night comes, your hubby says, look, you have to dress up really nice. So you're going to have to get your nails done, your hair done. You're going to have to wear makeup. You're already smirking. I see that. You're going to have to get your hair done. I don't
get to do that very often. So that would be the good part.
Okay. You got to wear high heels. You got to wear a really nice dress. So that's bringing the horse in, giving him a bath, pulling his mane, polishing his feet, braiding him up, and all of those things that some horses might like you might like doing that. But me, it's a drama. So to give you an example of how much of a drama it is for me, years ago, we were going to a wedding. It was in Baltimore on a boat. It was in the afternoon. It was a very nice wedding and everybody was going to be dressed. And Wendy had the total and complete meltdown in front of her closet.
Yeah, that I've had when the air conditioning doesn't work. That's the other part.
Yeah, and nothing fits.
Nothing fits.
Right?
Yeah, now you're sweating.
Fits.
So all the makeup that you'd put on, the once a year application of makeup is now dripping down your face.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're freaking out. So what does your husband do? He drives you to Neiman Marcus and turns you over to the salesperson in Neiman Marcus to dress his wife.
Okay, so the story just got a whole lot better. You can take the girl out of New York, but you can't take New York out of the girl. All right, I'm getting this.
Right? Yeah. So for most horse people, when I do this talk at my clinics, most horse people, the minute they hear they have to get dressed up and wear heels, they're out of there. They are like not happening. Like I want to wear my breeches and my boots and my t-shirt. So that's the horse where we bring them into an environment and suddenly we do all this prep work that they're not used to. And so it starts to increase a little stress. Then hubby grabs you, chucks you in the car, and drives like crazy because he's late.
Yeah. God.
Right?
Yeah.
And okay. So how's that make you feel? I already saw it.
Yeah. That's
what to puke.
Don't put me in the backseat of a car with tight suspension either, because we'll be going home so I can change again.
Exactly. So that's when we put the horse in the horse trailer and we drive down the bumpy road and we're a little late to the clinic and we're driving a little faster than we should. And there's actually research that says that they looked at horses in terms of ulcers pre and post trailering, and that I wish I could quote this exactly, but basically a large percentage of horses had ulcers when they got off the trailer. So just trailering can create a lot of gastric juices that are bouncing up and causing ulcers. Now, obviously, a nice hay pack, we can put a hay pack in there and help keep the acids down in the stomach. But what do we do when we get to the show? What do we tell the horses they can't do?
Well, they can't get out. They have to wait till we go get our numbers and we get checked in, and then they can't go hang out with their friends, and they can't have any freedom. They can't roll.
They can't eat.
They can't eat.
Right?
Yep. All the
Right?
things that would soothe them.
Exactly. So we take them out of the trailer and we tell them we can't eat. And you'll notice that a lot of horses, when they get to a strange place, they want to put their head down and they graze quickly. They snatch. Well, part of that could be, and this is conjecture, could be that they're trying to put something in their stomach to damp the acids down after the bumpy trailer ride. But we tell them, oh, sorry, you can't eat. So we get to the dinner party. Hubby drive really fast. You're feeling really uncomfortable.
I want to stop you for a second there. I want to go back to the eating and the grass and the similarities between people and horses, being mammals, emotional eaters.
Oh, you're jumping ahead.
Sorry. Damn, I do that all the time.
It's okay.
That's what immediately came to mind. When you start to compare yourself, you're like, yep, that's what I do. Put me in a stressful situation and I'm going to stuff some popcorn and cookies in my face.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there in a second because
Okay.
I have some questions for her. Okay. We get to the door. At the door, hubby says, bye, I'm going to the meeting. He doesn't even walk you in the door. What do you want to do now?
Go find somebody who's like me.
Okay. So you're going to walk in because you're kind of precocious.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
A lot of people want to call an Uber.
Oh.
Hi, come pick me up and take me home. He'll never know. He's in a meeting. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Right? We look for the exits. How can I get out of here? When I was younger, like even into my 30s, maybe even my 40s, I would never go anywhere where I didn't drive myself so that I could leave.
That's me now. Yep.
I have to have an escape route. If I don't have an escape route, I am in big trouble nervous system wise. So, this is the horse that is brought out of the horse trailer, maybe stabled for a little bit, taken to the indoor, and all of a sudden he's got to go into this place he's never been. He doesn't know what's inside the door. And we're saying, oh, you got to go in. And he'd much rather go get an Uber and go home and be with his buddies out in the field and have some grass.
Yeah.
So you can see we're similar in our reactions. Okay, so now we get inside the door. Somebody opens the door, hubby kicks you in, off he goes to his meeting. What's your first reaction when you get inside the room?
First, I'm going to scan the room looking for a friendly face or a safe place.
You're going to look for a friend. So the horse goes into the arena, sees another horse, and wants to go buddy up.
Right.
What do we tell him he can't do?
He can't go buddy up. And in fact, he'll call out. Are there any friends?
Yeah,
right?
Is anyone here? Right?
Yeah.
I'm alone. Hello, is there a horse in the world? And we tell them, quit it, stop it. You don't go visit, don't touch that horse.
Yeah. Shh, shut up. Stop talking. What's the matter with you? Stop being naughty. Yeah.
We tell them they can't buddy up. Okay. Now you've already said another strategy. What's another strategy?
Emotional eating. Yeah.
Emotional
take me to the
eating.
buffet or the bar.
Right. And all parties, well, those are two different things. All parties have a buffet. If it doesn't have a buffet of some kind of munchies, it's a terrible party, right?
Right.
So we all want to graze. We all want to graze and soothe our emotional self with eating. What do we tell horses they can't do? Oh, you've got your bridle in. You can't eat, right? You can't graze. No, sorry, that's not allowed. So we tell them they can't buddy up. They can't graze. Usually when I do this at clinics, the first one that comes up is go to the bar. You took a little longer to get there. We medicate.
We do. We self-medicate. Right? Yes.
We self-medicate. Horses can't really self-medicate. We can give them Quietex and stuff like that to try and medicate them. But unless they have learned how to throw their parasympathetic switch, and that's actually one of the things Surefoot's so good at, unless they learn how to throw that parasympathetic switch, they can't self-medicate. So now they can't go to the bar. They can't go to the buffet. They can't go visit a friend. You said another one, isolate. Right. So I love when I do this one live because I can't tell you how many people tell me they go hide in the bathroom.
Yep.
Right.
There's a lot of stimulation too, just to take a tiny, tiny detour into the brain science of this and the parts of the horse's brain that are, I'm going to say more developed, but bigger than ours, the ones that process environmental stimuli. And and even for me, you put me in a situation like that and I will become very quickly overstimulated. The safest place that I feel on an airplane is in the bathroom. How funny is that, right? It's like Temple Grandin's hug machine. The smaller the space, the less stimuli, the more comfortable I feel, the better able I am to relax because I don't have to process all of the incoming stimuli. So yes, if I'm a horse or if I'm a person, isolation or removing the stimuli is going to be something I'd look to do.
What's another strategy that we have? There's one more. There might be more than one more, but there's at least one more.
One more strategy that we have?
It's not everybody, but you'll see it almost consistently at a party.
I'm stuck.
Okay, did you ever watch Mrs. Maisel?
Yes. I love that show.
What did she do?
She made jokes.
That's right. She entertained the crowd. She was the class clown. She was the fool around horse. Grabs at the blanket, grabs at the leash, and grabs at this, grabs at that, goes over, pokes everybody, goes over and gets in trouble, goes over and, who's the least okay in the room?
That is a clear case of the best defense is a good offense.
Yeah.
Right?
He's going to fool around. And what do we tell him to do?
Quit it. Quit it. Yeah.
Stop it. Don't do that. Shank him. Chase him back. Make him stand. Move him. We never stop to go, you know what? Are you okay? Because quite frankly, he's not. The fool around horse is the least okay in the class, the least okay in the party, the least okay in the environment, the least okay with the stimulus around him.
Yeah, because he absolutely cannot contain himself.
The thoroughbred that we call the ADD moment, looking out the windows. They're not okay. They're having to leave, go outside, do anything else, self-distract.
There comes a time when, especially with the thoroughbreds, where they go so over that threshold of anxiety that even food, their self-medication strategies don't work. I'm so over the top right now, I'm not even hungry. You can put the most delicious meal in front of me. And I get like that too, right? There are times I guess that's when your autonomic nervous system kicks in.
It's already kicked in. All of this is sympathetic stuff.
And it's that's like the peak of it. My body is telling me, don't eat.
Go higher.
You have to pee. You have to poop. You got to get rid of everything in you because you're going to have to run away. It's like your body is doing all these things that say, danger, danger. I am uncomfortable and not safe.
Right. When we go to a party, we go through all of that process. Some people love parties. They like that entertainment. They like that stimulus. They're extroverts. They like being around tons of people. But the majority of horse people that I talk to, that is not their gig. They want to isolate. They'll go medicate. They'll graze. They'll leave. The other thing, we said it, is they'll buddy up. They'll go into the room and they'll scan the room and they'll go, I met that person 20 years ago at a horse show. I know she likes horses. And you run over there and you go, hi, I know I remember you from this horse show. It was so long ago. Do you still have that paint horse? Because we remember the horse, right?
Yeah.
We don't remember the person's name, but we remember the horse. And so we buddy up. We start talking to them. We find somebody in the room we can feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I was reading, a study or an article recently on social psychology and how essential belonging is to the human psyche. We are just as social. Right. We are herd animals. We are just as social as horses. Just like food and air and water, a sense of security through your social grouping is critical to your emotional well-being. You talk about going to a party and or taking a horse to a horse show. For horses who are not comfortable with it or very well habituated to the whole process of showing, they're in a new situation. And a lot of it is anticipatory anxiety. I don't know what's going to happen. If you're going to a party with people you know and food you love and you've been there before, the anxiety is a lot less. When I was giving birth to my daughter 21 years ago and I was in the hospital, first time having a kid, first and only time having a kid, never been in this situation before, haven't even watched friends and family give birth. I had no idea what to expect. And I'm in that hospital bed and all sorts of stuff is going. I'm like, oh my God. I turned to somebody and I thought that I was going to do this whole thing au naturel. No, I could do this without an epidural. I'm a horse girl, right? I turned to somebody in scrubs and I said, is this going to hurt worse than falling off a horse? And she goes, I don't know. Let's ask the anesthesiologist who you don't want to give you a needle in your back.
I was like, why? They said, well, she's a horse person. Oh, I instantly, everything, I had a fear, a very strong fear of having a big needle stuck into my spine. And that was really why I didn't want to have the epidural. But as soon as I heard that this woman who had that needle was a horse person, my whole body relaxed. And I said, go ahead, stick that thing in me and let's get this kid out. But everybody kind of remembers their birth story. But it was the moment.
No, but you made association. There was a comfort level. That person knew you. They understood you. They understood what it's like to be a horse person. They can relate to your experience. They can relate to your story.
But the physical response that I had to knowing somebody like me was in that room was remarkable, even to me, even in the middle of active labor. So that's just a story to underscore your point.
And it doesn't have to be a horse show. When the horse has to go to the vet, usually there's a problem already. They're already stressed. Right. And now we have to take them somewhere that they're not familiar to going, that's going to smell really weird, that's going to have other horses that are sick, so the poop's going to stink funny. The environment's going to be weird. Everybody's going to be looking at me and poking on me, and I can't graze, and I can't, and I don't want to be there.
Mm.
And you just think about going to the doctor, going to the hospital. We have the same reaction. Oh my God, I've got to go for my annual whatever. And it's like, I think I'll put the appointment off. I think I'll be busy doing my toenails that day. I mean, it's like cleaning my house, whatever it is I can get out of. So my point being, there's the sympathetic side and the parasympathetic side. And the whole idea is that you need sympathetic. People think it's all bad. It's not all bad. For you to stand up, you need some sympathetic. For you to do barn work, to ride, you need some sympathetic. Parasympathetic, when you're sitting on the couch and you're watching TV with your bowl of popcorn, you're really low in parasympathetic. But we basically have this range that we operate in, a good range, a healthy range. And it's when we get out of that range, when we get too high or too low, we're in serious trouble. So you can take a horse into an environment where it's a little bit stressful and they've raised up a little bit, but you can do some things to help them realize, oh, it's okay. First of all, you're there with, hopefully you have a good relationship, and you're where, just like the horse person with the anesthesiologist, you're like, oh, somebody familiar, or a barn buddy, a horse I know when I'm going to the vet. It's okay. I know this guy, so it must be okay because he's always told me it's fine when I go places. But my point being that if we think about the horse's experience of strange environments or different things that we're doing from our own experience of how we feel when we go to the doctor, or we go to a dinner party, or we go to the hospital, or something out of our normal everyday, can we then not relate to the horse's experience in a more humane way, going, wait a second, you're telling me you're stressed. You're snatching at grass like crazy. You're not okay. You're trying to leave. You're not okay. You're trying to run over to your friend. Oh, you're not seeing me as comfort or support. You're saying, I need this other horse. And when we can start to relate it to our own sense of how we react in environments where we're stressed, and acknowledge, wow, you're not misbehaving. You're not okay. You're feeling stressed. What can I do to help you feel okay in this environment? How can I be there so that you trust me and acknowledge that I'm going to keep you safe, even if I've asked you to do something you haven't done before?
That is the key. That is the foundation, just like walk, trot, canter. That is the foundation of everything. A horse cannot think abstractly. They don't understand the concept of safety. They can feel it. They can respond to it. They live with it. But they don't understand, they can't think two steps ahead like we can.
Well, I can't tell you, hey, look, you're going to be safe if you do this thing. It's fine. I got you.
Right.
That's
if you're going, it's okay. It's okay. They're like, no, it's not, because you're uptight.
Right. And you're like giving me all these vibes of, you're saying the words, but your body isn't telling me this.
Right. And
They're not congruent. Yeah.
But building that relationship of trust through repetitive events in the horse's life, where
small,
repetitive
incremental
events where the horse can experience activity A with result B over and over and over again. And then you can do activity A with result C. So you build on this, and there's no betrayal. That the horse doesn't get into a situation where they're in a lot of pain or they're overfaced.
We are going to make mistakes. That's just a given.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I see people trying to not make a mistake, what I tell them is they've already made the mistake, because in trying not to make a mistake, they're trying too hard. But horses can become resilient because sometimes I screw up. I've screwed up many times. And forgive, I don't even know that they have forgiveness as much as acceptance.
Right.
All right, you did this bad thing, but you're back to being this other person again. Okay, I don't know who that was. You smelled funny.
This is really a good discussion to have, because there is a fine line between anthropomorphizing, projecting human expectations onto our horses, as we often do, and then anthropomorphizing enough so that we can have empathy and put ourselves in the horse's shoes so that we can treat them more humanely. It's a balance. I don't even know if it's a balance, but I think we move in and out of those two things. Don't project. We can't expect our horses to behave exactly how we want them to, because their brains just don't work like ours. We have to lower the bar of our expectations down to the equine level, not to the human cognitive level.
If we look at the horse from our own primitive brain, we're very similar, right?
Yeah.
If we look at the horse from the dinner party perspective, that makes me feel nervous. Oh, that's why you feel nervous, because I don't feel comfortable in this environment. And maybe not all the examples I gave apply to everyone, but I'm sure there's one of them in there somewhere in that dinner party that applies. And so if you can realize, wow, when that happens, I feel stressed. When somebody's telling me, I can't go over and visit my friend and I'm feeling nervous, I feel stressed. Well, then I can relate to the horse going, okay, that part of our nervous system is very similar. We are both mammals. And this is where I talk about we're flight animals. Horses are flight animals. Their response to danger is to flee. Humans also are flight animals. And the only thing that makes us different, and this is where our bigger brain comes in, is that we can make tools to try and make ourselves feel safer. It's a false sense of security, right? But we feel like if I have this tool, then I can protect myself. Well, that tells me that you're afraid.
Yes.
Right. And so that's what the horse can't do. The horse can't make that tool. And if I have more and more of these tools, I'm going to feel safer, but it doesn't actually make me safe, because someone else might have a bigger tool that can threaten me. So we'll go more to fight in many instances. If we need tools to make ourselves feel safe, we're going more into fight. Horses will go more into flight. But I'll tell you, when I take people on horseback safari to Kenya, and we're out there on the Mara, and we come across a lion, I can tell you exactly what everybody's feeling. They're all flight animals, humans and horses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're going to nope on out of here.
Yeah. Which is why I find when we look at ourselves from that primitive brain, we're going to kick into flight. We're going to flee the danger. We're going to flee the hippo. We're going to flee the lion. We're going to get out of town, because we can't have enough fight to deal with that threat. And we shouldn't, because that's where things get really south. That's where my guides are so amazing, because they're like, we're never going to put you in a place where that might need to happen. And if I don't have that tool, I won't take that risk. Which is really an interesting way to think about it. If I don't have that tool of defense, I won't take the risk. But we have a false sense of security. We override with our intellectual brain our fight and flight response by just having tools that we can defend ourselves with.
Okay, two questions I'm going to ask just because I want to put them on the whiteboard, maybe for discussion later. The first is there a difference in perceived threat and a real threat? So the rustling behind the bushes in my arena, will a horse, even if she's, habituated to that area and she's been trained to spook in place or to trust me or whatever whatever we do to help her with that, is her perceived threat the same as the horse who's on safari and sees an actual lion? Can the horse tell the difference, or are they just so hardwired to respond to the perceived threat that it doesn't matter if it's real or not?
I can't answer that, but this is what I can tell you. Apparently 40 years ago is when the movie Jaws came out. I went to see the movie Jaws. That was a bad thing for me. Because the shark came out and was it a perceived threat or was it a real threat? My nervous system reacted. And I have a very high startle reflex. Okay, now, so you have a startle and you have the one that jumps sideways and runs away. I startle. So when I'm watching a movie and a gun goes off, even though I see the guy with the gun and I know the gun is going to go off, I jump. I cannot control that. It just happens. So is it a perceived threat or is it a real threat that I startle? It's just my nervous system reacts. It doesn't matter if it's perceived or real.
I think it's just the neural pathway from the stimulus to the response.
Some of us have a higher sensitivity level.
Yeah.
A higher reflexive level. My cat, when I open the door, leaps over the threshold and jumps like 3 feet in the air and jumps over the threshold to go out. Okay. Very high reflex, quick, startles at a sound, pops up in the air. His full sister can't jump out of a paper bag. She doesn't have that reflex. She falls off the couch and lands on her side. She doesn't land on her feet. She's done it 3 times. But there's a difference in reflexive response. Buster, something spooks him and he jumps, and Lily, something happens and she'll flop over, right? That's the most she'll do is flop over.
And they're full siblings.
Full siblings. So I think what you're looking at there is the reflexive wiring. Some just have a higher reflexive response to certain things. Arabs have a higher reflexive response. They'll spook and startle quicker. I think that's wired into their nervous system as opposed to a learned behavior. And so this is where when we start to think about just the neural pathways and the design, you have different levels of Dr. Joyce Harmon just did a thing from my Effortless Horse class on reflex lines. And we were looking at this one little horse who is not a jumper. And I said, this horse is not a jumper. And when she did the reflex line over his butt, it was clear he is not a jumper. Whereas my big horse, quick and fast. So, trying to take a horse that doesn't have the reflexes and make him do a job that he can't. For example, I remember watching this Frisian that they were trying to teach Piaffe, and he just didn't have quick enough reflexes in his rear end to do it. And there's no amount of training that's going to change that reflexiveness. That's just built into the nervous system.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that with your startle reflex. When your horse spooks at something, is it because they have a higher reflexive response, not intentional? It's totally unconscious. And the other thing you have to take into consideration is their sense of smell. They have sensitive a sense of smell as dogs. They're using them for scenting, for finding people in the woods. They can do scent retrieval. And we don't tend to think about the horse's sense of smell as, what if a bear was there yesterday? And maybe it's not the rock, but the smell that they're reacting to, that our sense of smell is so poor.
Right. Our sense of smell. I have a difficult time acknowledging or working with, dealing with the things that happen to horses when people don't understand inherent horse behavior. The Frisian who just isn't quick enough to Piaffe, somebody will say he's lazy. Somebody will say he's disrespectful, as if it's a choice.
Right.
So I get frustrated with that. But at the same time, we don't know what we don't know. So to think outside of our own box, our own selves, we are very self-centered creatures.
I think all creatures are self-centered.
That's fine. All creatures may be self-centered, but we have the ability, we have the tools. We're self-aware. We know who we are when we look in the mirror, right? We can think abstractly. But just because we have that intelligence, that level of intelligence, doesn't mean we can look at a horse and not think of his behavior in terms of our behavior and our abilities. There's just so many people out there who don't understand the horse is behaving the way a horse behaves. And he's not You know what I'm saying? They don't understand the disconnect between this horse isn't a person. And so his behavior can't be described in people terms.
I think it's what you're talking about is when someone says, well, he doesn't like that rock.
Right.
It's when we project why he is doing something.
Right. In human terms.
In human terms. And I think when we parse it down a little bit, it's when we project, when we try to explain why the behavior is happening, as opposed to just acknowledging the behavior. The horse spooks at the rock. Okay, something about the rock makes him concerned. My job is to reassure him that the rock is safe. What are my means by which I can do that? As opposed to, he doesn't like the rock.
Right. But we say things like, he doesn't like the rock because that's all we know. We don't, for a lot of people, they don't realize they can step outside of that human awareness and simply say, this is a rock and the horse spooked at the rock. Why did the horse spook at the rock?
Exactly. And it's almost like see spot, run, isn't it? You've got to break it down into really simple objective observation as opposed to conjecture or projection, right? And I think if you listen to the words people use, you can start to see the difference. It's like when I teach people how to use Surefoot pads, I narrate what I see. Weight shifted right, weight shifted left, horse moved head, sternum is rotated. And I narrate it in really simple terms. And then somebody tries to say, well, he did that because blah, blah. I say, I don't know that.
It's very clinical.
Learning to be better observers and just stick with the facts, man.
And it takes that emotional body out of the interaction with your horse, which I'm always trying to get my emotional self out of the way so I can be more objective in whatever I'm, interpreting my horse's behavior. This is what I love about your approach, especially with the Surefoot pads. And then once you start, you kind of guide the way. You will narrate what's happening, and then I start thinking in those terms as well. Sometimes I just need a leader. I find that my brain goes there very quickly. Like, oh, okay, she's shifting her weight here. She's forward. The head is going up. The eye is softened. Whatever it might be, I start to look at my horse's micro behaviors in more clinical, objective ways. And then the picture becomes clear and there's no emotion there. I can't see very well what's happening when my emotional body is in the way.
And I also think that a lot of people can't see what's happening. So that's when they project. They can't see the detail. And so by narrating very simple words. So if I see, okay, horse shifted weight right, horse moved head over right front foot, horse remains over there, even though horse is on two pads. Then I see horse tilt nose. I might ask the rider, does your horse run through that shoulder? And then they'll go, oh, yeah. And I'm like, well, this makes sense because look at the weight and where the horse put the head in relation to the foot. If you take on that rein, the weight's going to carry him. So then it gets into very simple terms of gravity. Very, very simple. I don't do dynamic. But they want to know a cause and effect. We've got to be able to provide a cause and effect, but eliminate all of the conjecture, all of the projection, because gravity is the law. And when we get back to the simple things, and that's where what I find with Surefoot and horses with the dinner party story is that if I help the horse ground using the Surefoot pads and they feel more stable and secure, then the nervous system calms down because they're not out of balance emotionally, mentally, and physically. And then we can have a conversation. Can you please take a step forward? Great. Thank you very much. Yeah. And acknowledging that they then start to trust and they feel secure, and then they can start to do stuff.
Would you say that the Surefoot pads help a horse feel safe by allowing them to find some balance and stability? Because when a horse is not balanced and stable, they become somebody's food, somebody's victim.
Well, it's not even somebody's food. They got a 40-pound head at the end of a 3-foot lever arm. You take a 40-pound weight and you crane it over here. And if you're not standing squarely on your feet, you're already gone. And then all it takes is something out of the corner of your eye and you're moving. When you think about it from really simple terms, if I can feel stable on my 4 feet, if I can feel secure on my 4 feet, I can turn my 40-pound head and look at whatever might be the threat and figure out, is it a threat or isn't it? But if I go to look and I'm already leaning and off balance and somebody takes a hold of the rein, I'm already gone. One of the things that was so interesting when I was talking to Bettina Drummond, she had gone up to MSU where Hillary Clayton was years ago to do studies on the force plates. And she said while they were setting something up, she was standing with her horse on the force plates and she could feel the horse just shifting her weight from foot to foot, standing perfectly still. I don't think we give enough value to the fact that the horse is constantly seeking the ground and the balance over. That's all he gets, those 4 little feet. They're tiny compared to that big old massive body, right? Yeah. Those feet have to feel grounded and secure for that horse to be stable enough to examine the situation.
It's like a little baby, like a toddler who's learning to walk, how reliant they are on their toes to feel the ground, find the balance. I mean, even me, I'm standing here recording this episode, and if I stand still, there are lots of little tiny swaying movements. I am not, there is no still. Perfectly still, which is really interesting.
So the Surefoot pads, as best we understand it, allow the horse to reestablish that grounded stance so that they feel secure. And so there's that sense of, I just brought you something that's helping you feel more stable, secure, safe, and comfortable. You're going to associate that with me. Now you're going to trust me more because I brought something that was for you. We have to be generous.
Yeah, which sometimes takes practice. I hope that we can get together again for more conversations. Where is the best place for people to find all of the things that you have to share with the equestrian world? Because you have a wonderful collection of online courses, tools. Tell us where they can find you best.
So probably the best thing right now to do is to go to Facebook and follow or like the Murdoch Method Facebook page, business page. We do have a Surefoot. We have a fans of Surefoot page if you're really interested in getting into Surefoot, which is great. But we post everything up on Murdoch Method, and you'll find all my, information about my courses there. And you can always message us and we'll get back to you. So I'm still working on my, we call it the Wendyverse landing page, but it's not done yet.
All right. Well, listeners, do not worry if you can't find Wendy's stuff. Go to stallandstable.com and we will post links to everything that could be of value, and that's a lot, in this episode's show notes. Wendy Murdoch, thank you so very much for joining me once again. I appreciate your time.
Such a pleasure. I love chatting with you. It's great. Anytime.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Wendy. She is truly a brilliant woman and one of the most influential, effective practitioners in the equine industry today. If you are an equine professional and you have questions about managing your barn better, your business, or if you'd like to learn more about equine behavior, please reach out to us. Go up to stallandstable.com and select the option. You can choose barn, business, or behavior, where you'll find options for professional consulting appointments, business coaching, and equine behavior analysis. And that's going to be a wrap for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it.